Welcome back to the deep dive. We take your sources and really try to unearth the most compelling insights. Today, it's quite a personal journey we're embarking on, a deep dive into the Eyes of Gaza, the diary of Palestinian journalist Plestia Alaqad. And this, well, it isn't just a book, it's raw, a real-time account of life, loss, incredible resilience during, well, an unimaginable crisis. Now, as we explore Plestia's own words, it's really important to remember we're focusing on her direct experiences, the language she uses. Our mission today is simply to convey her perspective as she documented it, so you can grasp her narrative and, what it tells us about the human spirit facing devastation. We'll unpack her journey from childhood dreams to becoming essentially an accidental war correspondent.
And what's so fascinating here, I think, is the immediacy. It's unfiltered source material. It really gives us this intimate window into a lived experience. And it challenges, I think, a lot of assumptions about how people cope when their world is literally collapsing. Plestia's voice. It's not just a journalist reporting facts, is it? It's a young woman documenting an unfolding tragedy. It gives such a deeply human lens on events that, for many of us, can feel quite distant, quite abstract.
Right. And to really get that shift, that profound shift in her life, we need to look at the before. Her world before October 7th, 2023. Her early life in Gaza, it's actually surprisingly relatable in some ways. Echoes of our own teenage years, maybe. She started her first diary back in 2013, a dark purple notebook, she calls it. And it was filled with, well, incredibly typical teenage stuff. School worries, classmates, friendship crises in sixth grade, being teased for good grades, even, crushes on pop stars like Zayn Malik. She writes about trying to understand herself, find her place.
That's absolutely crucial, that grounding. It shows us the normal that existed. Universal dreams, daily routines, even with that underlying tension of the broader situation. Seeing Gaza through her eyes before everything changed really helps us understand the sheer depth of what was lost.
And that search for self, it led her somewhere quite powerful, didn't it? Her ambition to be a journalist. It sparked when she was just 12, inspired by her teacher, Rawan al-Sarani, also a journalist. And Plestia saw it explicitly as a mission more than a career. That's her phrase, her goal, to inform the world about where I lived, a very personal drive. She even contrasts this, in the diary, with what she sees as the moral virtue for Western kids being told to dream of whatever they want to be. For her, it seems, it was less about individual choice and more about this collective purpose.
A really powerful distinction she makes there.
And before October 7th, her life sounds, well, vibrant, full. Waking up late, tutoring her sister Lean, going to Q Cafe with friends, family dinners, playing tennis with friends Yara and Judy. She says their skills were laughable, but you feel the joy, the camaraderie there. She writes about feeling a purpose, a sense of community in Gaza, a real connection. But she also acknowledges that awareness, always under the threat of constant siege, an underlying fragility. But still, this belief, Gaza wasn't going anywhere. I thought I had all the time in the world. And then she adds, little did I know, which, knowing what comes next, is just chilling.
It is. And that sense of security, however fragile it might have been, is exactly why her earlier narrative is so vital. It grounds us. It lets us see how people build lives, find purpose, cherish home, even with those tensions. Connecting this to the bigger picture, it really underscores how individuals find meaning in their specific circumstances, and how a place often just labeled a conflict zone was, for her, simply home. Vibrant, full of family, friends, everyday life, cherished. It shows that deep personal connection, even under threat.
But then, October 7th, 2023, everything changes, dramatically. Her description of that morning is quite stark, waking up to messages about bombings. But her first reaction, surprisingly, is almost dismissal. Not unusual in the Gaza Strip, she thinks. She actually goes back to sleep. That immediate normalization. It's jarring, isn't it?
It really is.
It's only when the news headlines start pouring in and her mother starts making this endless grocery list that the gravity hits. She talks about triggering the familiar emergency mode, stocking food, opening windows slightly to stop them shattering from blasts, getting the grab bag ready with passports. Just ready.
That detail about her mother mistaking the bombs for rain, that's deeply unsettling. What does that tell us?
Yeah, what does that reveal? About the psychological toll?
Well, it's more than just a strange anecdote, isn't it? It's a chilling sign of how the human mind adapts to the utterly abnormal. It forces us to confront that psychological burden, that constant threat, where the very sounds of violence just blend into the everyday soundscape. It really challenges our idea of normal in such situations. And Plestia herself reflects on it so insightfully. She asks, how much trauma does it take to start thinking that bombs are like rain? And how much trauma does it take to consider that funny? It's her recognition of this extraordinary, almost dark adaptation survival mechanisms.
And right in the middle of that chaos, something else happens. An unexpected call from Mohammed Abu Safia asking for a minute-long video report. This leads to her very first live TV appearance as a journalist, and she describes her excitement, saying, "It's rare that we get a platform to talk about our own home. Usually others speak on our behalf," which was right back to her core mission, doesn't it? Telling Gaza's story in her voice.
Absolutely. And that mission, that drive to articulate what her community is going through, is really powerfully underscored by a poem she includes. She titles it, "With Tears in My Eyes, I Tell the Teacher, Israel Stole My Pencil Case." It's a striking metaphor, isn't it? It conveys this deep sense of injustice, this feeling of having no recourse. From her perspective, this poem provides crucial emotional context. It helps us understand the depth of her experience and why reporting felt so vital, so personal. It's a raw expression of feeling helpless against, well, overwhelming power dynamics as she perceives them.
The situation then, as she describes it, just deteriorates rapidly.
Right.
Takes a devastating turn. Destruction, displacement, escalating incredibly fast. By day 3, she notes over 100,000 Palestinians are displaced. Her own family starts this series of forced evacuations. Their home, then Al-Quad's hospital, a friend's house, eventually her uncle's house in Khan Yunis. She observes this grim pattern. You evacuate your house, you go to a relative's house, then you and your relatives evacuate until you all end up in a tent together. Just a relentless cycle of loss.
Such a stark description of that domino effect.
And she talks powerfully about the connection people have to their homes, that sacred connection, even when they're just rubble. She tells this poignant story about her friend Dana. Dana's room is destroyed, full of debris. But amidst all that, Dana insists on going back to get her favorite perfumes. It's not really about the perfume itself, is it? It's about clinging to fragments of normal life, of identity, of personal history, when everything else is being ripped away.
Exactly. Those small things become anchors. Anchors to who they were, to the life they hope somehow to get back to.
This whole section just conveys the sheer fluidity, the terror of life under conflict.
It does. The repeated displacements, the way home shifts from a physical place to more of a communal spirit. These are critical insights. It really highlights how human connection, those small acts of defiance against despair, become the new anchors when everything else is gone.
And amidst all that darkness, Plestia also focuses on these moments of profound kindness, resilience. She talks about a family in the hospital, strangers, sharing their only blanket and pillow with her. A simple act, but meaning so much in that context. And the story of the bird lady, given 5 minutes to evacuate, and she saves all her pets, a parrot, tortoises, other birds.
Incredible. It speaks volumes about the value placed on life, all life, even in the face of imminent danger.
Then there's that moment that just hits you. Muhammad, Haytham, and Plestia risking their lives to save Haytham's son, Elus's plant. For a school project, Plestia calls it a little everyday impulse that shatters my heart into a million pieces.
Heartbreaking. It highlights that enduring need for routine, for education, for something growing, something beautiful, even when life itself is so fragile.
It really does raise a profound question.
It does. How do people find the strength? Not just to survive, but to care for a plant, share a blanket, when basic needs like food and water are luxuries. It speaks to this incredible, almost stubborn persistence of humanity.
And how does Plestia herself navigate that internal conflict she mentions, the journalist's dilemma facing all this need?
Well, that's fascinating too, her internal struggle. She's torn constantly between reporting the tragedy and that immediate visceral urge to help. She describes digging through rubble with families, comforting people, helping unidentified children in hospitals. But by day 4, she makes this conscious choice, prioritizing journalism. Choosing it over her emergency bag, essentially her lifeline. It suggests she understood, perhaps, that bearing witness, giving voice, might be the most powerful intervention she could offer, even with immediate needs all around. It's a profound ethical tightrope she's walking, choosing between 2 essential forms of human service, really.
And even then, somehow, there are these glimmers of unexpected joy in her diary. Finding ice cream in a city with no electricity, a small market running off a solar generator, a tiny, almost miraculous discovery. And that moment, Haytham captured kids dancing in the rain, finding freedom, hope, however fleeting.
Those aren't just anecdotes, are they? They're powerful affirmations of life itself, snatched right from the jaws of despair.
As things continued to worsen, Plestia faced what she calls the hardest decision, leaving Gaza in November 2023. She felt it was a betrayal, leaving colleagues, family, even though they urged her to go for safety. For her, this conflict felt different, not just an aggression like maybe previous times. She explicitly calls this a genocide. And that distinction seems to have fundamentally shifted things for her, making her realize, this time I'm leaving. Yeah, Her time afterwards, in Egypt, then Australia, marked by this deep disconnect. Overwhelmed by the privilege of a fancy hotel while Gaza suffered. The surreal mission of just shopping for clothes, seeing other displaced Gazans in malls. And she writes, her homesickness is now for a home that no longer exists.
That phrase, homesick for a home that no longer exists, it's incredibly poignant. It captures so much more than just physical loss. It's the loss of memories tied to places, a collective identity, the future imagined there. It really speaks to a trauma that extends far beyond the immediate conflict, an unraveling of self, of belonging. She also grapples very openly with survivor's guilt, acknowledging it's something felt widely, globally even. We all feel survivor's guilt. She talks about her pre-genocide self versus genocide Plestia, finding it hard to even recognize herself, a fractured identity.
But even in that struggle, she seems to find new purpose, moments of joy. Connecting with university students, protesting globally, advocating for Palestine, she calls it groundbreaking, finds real happiness in that. Her goal now, she says, is to be a voice, a role model for young people, a mission to inspire and educate the next generation.
And this is where she talks about Palestinian resilience, creativity, observing what she calls a trauma glow-up. It's a really arresting concept, seeing kids using electricity wires as skipping ropes or tents meticulously built from cans, creative solutions for survival. The trauma glow-up.
Yeah, it's more than just resourcefulness, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a profound act of defiant creativity. These kids transforming wires into toys, cans into shelter, they aren't just coping. They're actively reclaiming agency, finding joy. It's a testament to a human spirit that refuses definition solely by suffering. It finds ways to innovate, to play, to just be, even in the most deprived conditions. It challenges our view of resilience as just endurance. It's vibrant, creative. And Plestia sees this as a refusal to be just victims, but as people, human beings with hopes, aspirations, and the right to enjoy a peaceful and dignified life. Plestia Alaqad's diary, The Eyes of Gaza, it really is an extraordinary testament to the raw human experience in profound crisis. It shows us that even when houses are bombed, people killed, a city erased, the spirit of community, the power of telling your own story, and that stubborn persistence of hope, somehow they endure. As Plestia asks, what is home? And her answer is so poetic, so insightful. Home is the sea, vast and enduring. Its waves carefree. No bomb can shatter it. No force can kill it. No erasure can diminish it. Home is the sea, and no one can change that.
And looking at this through that wider lens, Plestia's journey is a stark reminder of a fundamental truth. Wars don't end when the bombs stop. They linger. In the minds of survivors and the void left by those who don't survive. For Palestinians, she writes, the war is never truly over. A ceasefire is just the space between tragedies. That's a profound statement. It challenges us really to look beyond the headlines, doesn't it? To see the long-term human cost of conflict. It extends far beyond the immediate moment.
So this deep dive into Plestia's story, it leaves us with, well, quite a provocative thought, perhaps. How do we as a global community genuinely support those who, like Plestia, are living in that space between tragedies? Not just helping them survive, but enabling them to truly heal, rebuild, and dream of a future where maybe their birthdays can be celebrated for freedom, not forever tied to tragedy.